Hi, so in this video we're going to be looking at finding the equation of tangents and normals to a curve. First of all, we need to know what a tangent is and what a normal is. So the tangent to a curve is a straight line which just skims past your curve, just touching the curve at the point that you're looking for. So here we have the tangent at x equals 1. And then the normal is the line, straight line again, which is at right angles to your tangent. So it's at 90 degrees to your tangent. We need to be able to find the equation of the curve. We need to know the gradient. So we start off by saying, well, the gradient of the tangent, because it's just skimming along the curve at that point, will equal the tangent of the curve. Now, we're using m here for gradient. And that's just a standard notation. Now the gradient of the normal is the negative reciprocal of the gradient of the curve or the tangent at that point. You will have done that hopefully before. So when you have one line which is perpendicular to the other, we use the negative reciprocal. So negative just means you change the sign, and reciprocal means you flip it. So you put the whatever's on the top on the bottom, or whatever on the bottom on the top. So if we had the tangent, the gradient of the tangent was 6, the gradient of the normal would be minus 1 over 6. Now to do these sorts of questions, we use the equation of the line given here, which is slightly different than the traditional one that you might have seen or used before. You should have covered it in coordinate geometry, but in this one, all we need to know the gradient at the point we're looking at, and we need to know one point on the line. Now do remember that when we want to find the gradient of the curve, we do this by differentiating our equation of the curve. So before we go any further, we need to make sure we can remember how to differentiate. So if we have y equals x squared, if you remember the rule, we take the power, and when we differentiate, we multiply by the power, and then we take 1 from the power. So 2 take away 1 is 1, and that's just the same as x. So here we take the power, and we multiply by the power. And so now we've got 3 times 3 gives us a 9. And then we take 1 from the power. So 3 take away 1 gives us 2. And then the final one we do term by term. So we multiply by the power. So 4 times 2 gives us the 8. We take 1 from the power, which gives us the 3. And then when we differentiate 4x, remember this has just got a little 1, we do 4 times 1 is 4, and then we take 1 from 1, gives you 0, and anything to the power of 0 is 1. So it's the same as 4 times 1. And then when we differentiate a constant, you should know that the gradient is 0. Okay, so now we're going to try this example. We want to find the equation of the tangent and normal to a given curve. So that's our curve at a given point. So we want to do that when x equals 2. Now the first thing we need to do these sorts of questions is we need to differentiate our curve so we get an expression for the gradient. So we get, when we differentiate x cubed, we multiply by the 3. And then we take 1 from the 3 to give you 2. When we differentiate minus 2x, we get the minus, and then that goes to 2. And when we differentiate the constant, the minus 1, that goes to 0. So now we've got an expression for the gradient. We can find the gradient at the point we're looking at. So we're looking at the point x equals 2. So all we do now is substitute x equals 2 in here. So we get 3 times 2 squared minus 2 gives us 10. So the gradient at x equals 2, the gradient of the curve at x equals 2 is 10. Now from this, when we know the gradient of the curve, we can actually then find the gradient of the tangent, and we can find the gradient of the normal. So the gradient of the tangent, we did this before, just equals the gradient of the curve, and the gradient of the normal will be minus 1 over the gradient of the curve, so the negative reciprocal of the gradient of the curve. So if the gradient of the curve is 10, the gradient of the tangent's 10, and the gradient of the normal is minus 1 over 10. Now before we can use our formula here, we must know the y-coordinate. So we know the x-coordinate from here, but we don't know the y-coordinate. Now to find the y-coordinate, all we do is put our value for x in here. So we just do y equals 2 cubed minus 2 times 2, 2 times x, minus 2, which gives us y equals 2. So our point is x is 2 and y is 2. So finally, once we've got that, we can use our equation for our straight line, and we just substitute our values, our points, the y point and the x point, and the gradient. So for the tangent, the gradient was 10, so we get y minus 2, so that's our y point, equals 10 times x minus 2, our x point, and the normal will be y minus 2 equals minus 1 over 10 x minus 2. Now please note that normally it's actually fine to leave the equation like this. Sometimes they tell you what format they want, so do look at the question and make sure you give the answer in the format that they're looking for. I hope that was helpful.